There was once a family home on a quiet street, the kind of place where birthdays were celebrated and where generations left traces of themselves in worn floorboards and faded photographs. When it came time to sell, the family reached out to someone they'd been referred to, someone familiar, not necessarily qualified. Promises were made, the price was set high, higher than the market could bear, but attachment to the home and the emotion made it feel justified. Weeks turned into months. Hope dulled into anxiety. Every phone call that wasn't an offer felt heavier than the last. Frustrations set in. In a desperate attempt to break the silence, the family handed the property to several different agencies, believing more boards meant better chances. Soon the yard was cluttered with crooked, sun-faded for sale boards, each one a silent, mocking reminder of how badly things were going. Viewers came and went, offering polite smiles and quiet, uneasy glances. Some spoke of old carpets, peeling paint. Some complained about this and that and the outdated kitchen, and this is too old, and I don't like this and that. The house, once warm and familiar, felt increasingly like a burden no one wanted to claim. The agents grew distant, excuses replaced updates, days blurred into weeks, each without progress, and tension in the household thickened. Nights were restless, filled with what ifs and quiet arguments over what should have been done differently. The home's once precious memories began to sour, overshadowed by the weight of an unsellable property. Attempts to list it online yielded little. Blurry photos taken on a phone, a single badly written description. Competing homes appeared polished, modern, clean, perfectly priced. This one, burdened by nostalgia and obviously neglected, slipped further and further down the list. When offers finally arrived, they came like insults, far below what had once seemed reasonable. Each offer rejected chipped away at morale, but as the months dragged on, desperation blurred the lines between principle and survival. By the time the house got sold, it was for a fraction of what anyone had hoped for. Not because it wasn't a home worth loving, but because no one had cared enough to position it as one when it mattered the most. And in its long, silent wait for a buyer, the house had become a burden too heavy to carry. Hi, this is Malimo, and in this video, I will be talking to you about the mistakes sellers make when selling their property. We're going to start with the first and most crippling mistake: emotional pricing. As you heard in the story, homeowners tend to value their property more than the market does. And it is absolutely not a greedy thing to do. It is just we tend to value our own possessions, our own belongings, more than their market value, essentially. We're not saying we want to sell properties or we should sell properties for cheap. What we're saying is we should sell properties at their comparative market value. What is a comparative market value? It's a formula that we use to determine the value of a property in today's market by comparing it to similar properties that have recently been sold or are currently active on the market or have been listed but then withdrawn from the market. This value then positions your property to attract willing and able buyers. And a willing and able buyer is a buyer who is pre-approved, pre-qualified, and an educated buyer. Why do I say educated buyers? Because in today's market, in today's age, buyers are educated, they're tech savvy, and the average educated buyer goes through 12 homes before deciding on one, which means your property is being compared to 11 other homes. After they compare, they already know the market value. And if your property is priced just maybe 5% and above market value, they don't even look at it. They just ignore it. It doesn't even compete. It is the least valuable offer on the table in their eyes. And you know what? We had 2 properties recently priced above their market value. And how these properties got bought, how the buyer bought this property, tells the story. They were both cash sales, which means the buyer had a bag of cash and they wanted that one. You know, when a buyer wants that one, the price doesn't matter. It's emotional. They just want that one. And this is what I like to call a lottery. You know, this is what we call a lottery, because when someone has a bag of cash from a source we cannot disclose and they see a house they really want, they just want that house. But unfortunately, there are hundreds of other homes also waiting for their lottery ticket, rotting on the market for months, years, still awaiting for that one cash buyer who just falls in love with their property and only wants their property. The second mistake homeowners make is thinking that, well, as you heard in the story, that multiple agencies are going to sell your home quicker than just one. And I wish I would say, like I said in the video that got you here, that there are pros and cons to each, but there are more cons with multiple agencies than there are cons with selling with one agency. And here's why. The idea behind getting multiple agencies to sell your property is multiple marketing channels, multiple reach, longer reach. But it's not like that at all. It just means less commitment. You see, because each agency is aware that your property is with other agencies, they're less committed, less willing to use their resources and their time and their energy to sell your property. Your property is a high risk to the agencies that are aware that your property is not on soulmate date or not exclusively for them, because at any point in time, they can have a buyer, a pre-approved buyer, an educated buyer that comes to them, but they will not allow that buyer to go to buy your property because your property is high risk, meaning at any point in time, another agency can have a buyer who gets there faster than theirs, and all of a sudden, they've lost a buyer, they've lost the deal, and they've lost money, time, and resources wasted on marketing a home that was not going to give them a guaranteed check. Because of that possibility, what ends up happening is that no agency ends up fully committing to marketing your property, which means they all put in half efforts. They just list it there and it's just on their property list, rotting there. No one wants to put money on it. No one wants to put time on it. No one wants to put energy on it. And it's just there, sitting, nothing, because everybody's afraid that they're going to lose out on the deal, which means the homeowner loses in this scenario. The third mistake is two things actually: poor presentation on the homeowner's side and poor marketing on the agent side, or if the homeowner is doing their own marketing because they don't have an agent to do their marketing for them, then it falls under the owner's fault, right? The presentation of a home, right, is things like the gardening, how clean is the house in general, how organized the house is. And these little things, just by organizing the home, doing the garden, even painting, these little things, they impact the perception of value in the client's mind. And the big problem with presentation is when a client sees the house they like on Facebook or online or wherever they see it, and then they come to the viewing and the house is not the same, the property is not the same. That's discouraging for the client. That's discouraging for the home buyer, your potential home buyer, because when they see that what they had in mind is not in reality, it implants a seed of doubt. For example, they saw the house when the garden was done, but now they happen to come when the garden is not done. It's the same house, it's the same thing that they saw, but that online versus reality really discouraging for the client. And they may say things like the property's nice and they like it and whatever, and they may nod while we're showing them the property as if they like it. But high chances are, if a seed of doubt is planted in the mind of the client when they're already comparing your property to 12 others in their minds, after they leave, chances are, we're not going to see them again, because now they're doubting what else is wrong with the property that was in the description, that we saw in the description was a better looking property, but in reality it's not, it's nowhere near what they thought. You understand? And the marketing problem, well, this usually just happens with a sole mandate. The agency comes, signs a sole mandate, but there's no marketing plan. And the property practitioners board says that there's supposed to be a marketing plan attached to the sole mandate. So if there's no marketing plan and you've signed a sole mandate with a company, with an agency, but there's no marketing, there's nothing happening. Maybe for the first few days or weeks, they market it and then they just stop. And then, Today is in 2005. It's 2025. One show on a random Saturday is not going to sell a house. It's just not. So if there is no marketing plan with the agency that you have a sole mandate with, then that's a problem. That's a big, big problem. Chances are they're going to give up on that property and move on to a newer, fresher property, which is also going to sit on the market for ages. This is what we call low performing agencies. Low performing agencies. So don't sign with low performing agencies. Well, how do you avoid signing a sole mandate with a bad agency? Well, you just have to vet them. Check their social media, check their Facebook, check their Google. Do they appear on Google? What's their ratings and whatnot? You check them just like you check a good partner. In the video that got you here, I said it's crucial for you to find a good agency. But you can also amend this by keeping them accountable. Hey, are you still marketing my property? Hey, I don't see what's going on. Are you still, how is it going? And if they give off the energy of like you're pestering them, then it's a good sign that you've signed with the wrong agency. So just like a partner, you vet your agency before you choose to sign with them. And when they sign, they have to have a marketing plan. There needs to be a marketing plan. The fourth mistake, and I believe the last mistake, is the documents, ignoring the importance of legal and compliance readiness. You don't want to be stuck in your property. So the paperwork needs to go smoothly. You need to know what to do with the paperwork and the documents so that when you finally move out of your home or your property, or you leave your property, that down the line you don't find out that no, you're owing on this property and there are some things that you need to pay, or it doesn't affect you in the future. Those kind of things. It's more lethal for the property buyer, the person who's buying your property. Now, their documents need to be really in order, because you get cases where people think they're buying properties, but they're not buying properties. They're just sending a person cash, and then when that person gets the cash, they move out and the buyer moves in, but the property is not in the buyer's name, it's still in the seller's name. And so are all the rates and taxes. And so is every expense on that property still on the person who sold the property. Things like that. This is where the property practitioners really come to shine, because this is the process, this is the paperwork, the transferring of the property, making sure you leave squeaky clean. And this is where the expertise of property practitioners come to shine. It becomes problematic when you try to do it privately without an agency, and you don't really know what to do when it comes to this area. But with knowledgeable property practitioners, we walk you through the steps. And you need this document, you need this document, this needs to be in order, and the process is smooth that way. And so we have come to the end of the video. A quick summary. First thing, let's price your property competitively and strategically. so that it can get a serious buyer quickly. Second thing, signing a soul mandate with a company with a proven track record is better. And what goes with that is a soul mandate with a marketing plan. If the property sits on the market for 6 months or more and it's 1 million to 2.5 million, those agents are eating pop and flakes at home. They're not doing any work. Even up market, above that 2.5, 5 million, 10 million, if it takes more than a year to sell a property, there's something wrong. Either the marketing, the price. Even marketing can fix a good price or a bad price. Marketing could fix a bad price. Small chance, but there is that chance. So, lastly, your agency is supposed to help you with the documents so that everything runs smoothly and there are no leaks from the tap that comes back to bite you later. This is Mulimo from Riatsepa Properties, and it was a nice one.